Ladies and gentlemen, hey, hi, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. We are getting closer and closer to the launch of Black Ops Cold War, and with that, it seems like almost every single week now, we're getting more and more info on the game, regarding multiplayer, the campaign, zombies, the ties between the Modern Warfare storyline and the Cold War storyline, and plenty of other stuff too. What we haven't gotten a ton of, though, is information on Warzone, which is probably one of the biggest things that people are wondering about so far, but regardless, today we ended up getting a brand new reveal from Pawn Takes Pawn, and so today we're basically going over everything that stemmed from that. So if you enjoy the video at any point, let me know by dropping a like on it, and of course, if you're new here, we are now less than 2,000 subs away from 600k, so if you're watching and you're not already subscribed, this is the place to be to stay on top of everything going on in COD between Cold War, Warzone, Modern Warfare, you name it. So feel free to subscribe and maybe even turn on those post notifications. Now, as far as today's Pawn Takes Pawn update goes, this is sort of this multi-step thing, right? Last weekend, we ended up getting this video here.
You're getting quite good at following my breadcrumbs. I knew you would. You're a lot like me. When I was a kid, my mom had to work 2 jobs and make ends meet. That meant I was home by myself and watched a lot of TV. But somehow she scraped up enough money to buy that first-gen console for my 13th birthday. That saved me. Kaboom, Travel Command, River Raid, it's too many to list. And I was good at it. Didn't matter what was going on at school or in the street. In my living room with the lights off, I was a hero.
Then earlier on this week, we actually got this video, which is basically a direct follow-up to the first one.
That game felt so real. Like I was really breaking into government servers somewhere and discovering something that I wasn't supposed to. I guess that's who I was always meant to be. The troublemaker that doesn't know when to stop. Just like my dad. My name is William Bowman. Joseph Bowman was my father. We still got a lot of work to do. I'll see you really soon.
So, of course, that video reveals to us that William Bowman, who is Joseph Bowman's son, is actually this mystery character that's been talking to us throughout the past few months through Pawn Takes Pawn. And that leads us here to today, where we started on pawntakespawn.com/deepcover, and here we see this sort of checklist that says successfully decrypted the phone sequence, which we ended up doing last time. Then the unchecked one is that of the obtain deep dive sonar coordinates line, and these coordinates can actually be found on a Facebook post from Call of Duty, and the answers here are going to be 59, 43, and 18 in that order. That then brought us to the boiler room URL, which has an image of this puzzle here that says walkabout 1 out of 2. Then we also got new instructions on the printer, which ultimately led us to the bulkhead URL, where we need to enter 6 codes in order to actually move on. Those codes are going to be Bull Nuke, Blue Water, Shellback, Devil to Pay, Amphibious, and then finally Shift Colors. Entering those then takes you to the full clip page, which has codes for all the computers that people got sent a while back. And then on top of that, the main light on the Code Cave page also shows us the brand new URL of Anchors Away, which gives us a new tape, which basically just says that Bowman is going to do everything in his power to take down Perseus in some kind of revenge act, if you will. However, there is something kind of weird about everything today, because we also got the Welcome Adventurer URL, which pretty much just explains how to get all the achievements for Pawn Takes Pawn if that's something you're interested in, but at the same time, it kind of spoiled all of today's steps and gave us the final URL, which is Hydro Camouflage. This one says, embark into Zork for the last time and say the incantation Dreadnought. Find the areas which have changed and look. It also says return at 1 p.m. PST on October 29th, aka tomorrow, to unlock the next step. So it seems this is yet another multi-step reveal for whatever this may be, and this literally did say head on into Zork for the final time, so perhaps the major Pawn Takes Pawn reveal is going to take place tomorrow or sometime later on this week. Of course, I'll be sure to keep you guys in the loop there, but there's also a much greater discussion here that has to do with Warzone. Now, looking back at what we've seen before with Pawn Takes Pawn, we initially got teasers for the campaign, and then we got that reveal. Then we got some teases for multiplayer, and we got that reveal. Then we got teases for zombies, and shortly thereafter, that reveal as well. So at this point, we're only missing the Warzone reveal, and with just over 2 weeks until launch, I'd say it's pretty surprising that we haven't heard anything about Warzone other than the fact that it is going to be a part of Cold War as a mode. But maybe there's a reason to that. Outside of what we know about the mode so far that we'll be getting into here momentarily, maybe the reason that we don't know how Warzone is going to be approached for the launch of Cold War is because it won't be updated for Cold War when the game drops. Of course, Modern Warfare didn't initially launch with Warzone included in it. It wasn't until March 10th, 5 months after the game was out, that Warzone released as the whole free-to-play aspect. Now, in all honesty, I wouldn't expect Warzone to wait until March of 2021 to update for Cold War, but I also wouldn't be surprised if maybe we don't see the Cold War Warzone, or better yet, Cold Warzone update happen until the end of December, maybe even early January. That way players have some time to experience the multiplayer aspects of Cold War before Warzone likely dominates the player base. I mean, it's really no secret that this year when Warzone dropped, multiplayer was put on the back burner big time. Prior to Warzone, multiplayer was getting new maps, new modes, new weapon tuning, and plenty of other updates pretty frequently. I would say multiple times a season, and then once Warzone did drop, that consistency when it comes to the updates seriously dwindled. And suddenly we'd only be getting, a new map or two once every single season. So I really wouldn't put it past Treyarch and Activision to kind of drive some focus towards Cold War's multiplayer for the first little bit, just because that's obviously the newer, fresher experience, and that also probably helps Activision look good in front of these shareholders as well. So really, I would say the idea of Cold Warzone not getting fully released until a little after Cold War drops is definitely viable. That idea is certainly on the table as of now. But that's not to say we won't be without any Cold War Warzone editions come launch time, because, as we know, there is one very peculiar leak when it comes to Warzone that relates to none other than Alcatraz. Now, of course, we saw Alcatraz back in Blackout. In my opinion, it was the best part of Blackout. It was incredibly fun. I absolutely loved grinding it. Now, in Warzone, over the past month or so, we've seen several Alcatraz-related files leak. Unfortunately, I can't show any of them on the screen, but they all feature Cold War propaganda all over the island itself. So, obviously, this is a tie into Cold War in some way, shape, or form. So, here's what I'm sort of wondering now. What if instead of Warzone dropping at launch with all the new Cold War updates, it releases a bit later, like I said, but in the meantime, we see Alcatraz added in as this sort of new secondary map to play on. That way we get a taste of a new Cold War based map, I guess, to sort of hold us over until the Cold Warzone update actually takes place. To me, that makes a lot of sense, but do keep in mind, this is just me speculating and sort of theorizing about the info that we have as of now. However, I do think it's definitely something to remember moving forward. Then, when it comes to the next edition of Warzone, Cold Warzone in general really, I assume we're going to see a pretty decent amount of changes to make the mode feel fresh, but not enough to the point where it's an entirely different game, right? Personally, between Warzone and Fireteam's mechanics, Fireteam being kind of this mix of Warzone, Ground War, and Plunder all combined into one mode, Warzone's Modern Warfare mechanics definitely felt a bit smoother. However, even if those mechanics change, or I guess even if they don't, according to the beta files, the Fireteam maps were named under the Warzone header, indicating they either are, or at one point were, part of a new Warzone map. And a new map, I think, is sort of the first step in reigniting that hype for Warzone moving into Cold War. And I would say it doesn't really even have to be like a completely new map built from the ground up. It could even be Verdant kind of updated to feature some new locations and some new scenery and whatnot. Then that map could casually change as we get further on into the year. So, all things considered, we could be seeing a new Warzone map debut with Cold Warzone, and if I had to guess, going off of the context clues that we've got now, this new map could be comprised of the Fireteam locations. Then, the final bit of info we've got on Warzone, and actually, one of the few things that we know is confirmed, is that certain content is going to transfer from Modern Warfare and Warzone into Cold Warzone. Now, there is a bit of an asterisk here, if you will. Yes, the blueprints and operators and other earnable content we got in Modern Warfare and Warzone this year is going to transfer to Warzone and Cold War, but it is also limited to Warzone only. So multiplayer in Cold War is not going to have Modern Warfare weapons in it. Warzone will though. Hopefully that makes sense. Because Warzone is the through line between Modern Warfare and Cold War, it's going to share unlockable items, but Multiplayer in Cold War is built off of Cold War, so it's not going to share those earnable items, and like I said, that is one of the few things that we know is confirmed for Warzone so far. But yeah, there you have it. That is effectively everything that we got out of today's Pawn Takes Pawn reveal, alongside some of what we may expect here for Warzone in the near future, and that is going to wrap things up for today. If you guys enjoyed the video, let me know by dropping a like on it, and of course, if you're new here, we are super close to 600k at this point, so if you want to help us reach that goal before Cold War drops, if you want to stay on top of pretty much everything going on in COD, between news, intel updates, you name it, you're going to find that all right here. So feel free to subscribe and maybe even turn on those post notifications. As always, if you want to check out any of my partners, be sure to use code IMMORTAL on all Scuff, G Fuel, and Control Freak products. All of those links can be found down below, and once again, thanks so much for tuning in. Until next time, take it easy, have an awesome rest of your day, and I'll catch you guys later. Peace out.